Hey Intersiege friends and fans, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a setup to this video you're about to watch. A few months ago I conducted an interview with Vlad Garcevic, one of the guitar players for the band Claymorean out of Serbia. We had a great conversation. I think we talked probably for an hour and a half about metal and politics and life and culture. It was a great conversation, but unfortunately we had some technical difficulties and I lost probably 30 minutes of the interview. So the interview is going to pick up at the point where we start talking about the 90s when metal kind of disappeared. It wasn't in vogue anymore. It was hard to find. So that's where we're going to start this conversation partway through. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Vlad Garcevic, again, guitar player for the band Claymorean from Serbia. Enjoy.
Back in 90s, the scene was covered with new metal, and all the kind of MTV, Pantera and the Roots, Sepultura influenced metal. There wasn't a huge interest for that kind of metal. So I didn't know at the time that underneath all of that, a traditional and power metal scene does exist. In the United States, you had Ice Dirt, you had Manowar, Alive and Kicking, Virgin Steel had some great albums at the time. And not until 1997, I wasn't aware that there is a healthy traditional metal scene. When I saw Hammerfall and their first video for the title song, Hammerfall, and I said, well, this is a new beginning of something.
Yeah.
So I managed to grab the bootleg cassette tape of Glory to the Brave, and that was that. I decided to start a band all over, but it took a while because the technology changed, and
Sure.
the analog technology was expensive. Still is expensive as hell. So I had to wait for some years later to for digital technology to become available for me to record something, because I'm not a rich man.
Sure.
Not even so. Not until 2003 2002, pardon me. Not until 2002 I haven't recorded anything, but we had some gigs, so
Yeah.
that was interesting. And the first true gig of a metal band from abroad I saw was Sabotage,
Oh, wow.
maybe their last show. So 2002 was, they had some show in Czech Republic, and some of our Serbian organizers went there and asked John and the crew, hey guys, can you come over to Belgrade? They did, and it was a blast.
That's awesome.
Blast. All the big names are coming exclusively to our capital city, Belgrade, and some of them to Novi Sad, which is the second largest city in Serbia. So being from a small town of Lazarevac, we have to travel to Belgrade or Novi Sad to watch some of these shows. But we're much closer than you to those cities.
Sure.
So Serbia is a small country. We only have 2 hours driving to to the next city where concert happenings are. Even we in Serbia have two large festivals that are held. One in Novi Sad, it's Exit Festival, but it's not primarily metal festival, but it has a stage which is called Explosive Stage, where all the metal bands are. I believe this year Sepultura is even coming, and Agnostic Front. Okay, they are more hardcore than metal bands, and lots of Serbian bands are playing. And we have an Arsenal Fest in the city of Kragujevac. Kragujevac is actually our Detroit rock city.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of last year Ingve was playing at Arsenal Fest, and Testament were there, Anthrax. So it's a great festival. Not entirely metal, but enough metal for everyone. So
yeah, exactly. At least they,
yes, we have tradition of bringing metal bands here. So
Very
Iron
cool.
Maiden are coming again. It's their, I believe, sixth time. Well, back in those days, many great bands emerged. I'm not going to count Gamma Ray or Halloween or Blind Guardian because they already went through all the 90s. Hammerfall was the first that comes to mind. Then there were Lost Horizon, their first two albums, which were great. Primal Fear with Ralph Shippers on vocals. And I believe I discovered Italian bands like Rhapsody, Domine, and who else? Sonata Arctica from Finland. Nightwish was there too, and Stratovarius, even though they're belong to the old school, beginning of the 90s, end of 80s bands. So the band that I think I started to pay attention more to the bands with growling vocals that had some death metal and black metal influences when I heard Dimmu Borgir, when I heard Cradle of Filth, when I heard, I don't know, Moon Sorrow, or even In Flames.
Okay.
So I became interested in that scene too. Dissection, Carcass, all those bands were pretty cool because they have that melodic metal component in their music. They weren't just blast beats and, you know, Morbid Angel type of metal. Metallium was one of the bands that I fell in love with. Chris Caffery played on their first album. It was a blast. Children of Bodom, too, with the late Alex Ilejo, and I don't know, many bands, but those are some I remember from the top of my head. It has something to do with the history, tradition, and heritage of the Europeans. We're much more into the history stuff, and you know, you have all these medieval castles all over Europe. You have, I don't know, huge battles were happened all over Europe, and power metal seems like that kind of style of music that evokes those times and talks about history and fantasy and all this stuff. So I believe Wacken is a great representation of what Europeans are when it comes to power metal. But if you ask me, I rather like Keep It True and Up the Hammers as festivals than Wacken. Wacken is too much of a commercial festival for my taste. But if they call us one day to play there, I won't say no.
Sure, exactly.
That's for sure. Well, as I mentioned before, Yngwie was I believe it was the breaking point when I said I need to start taking this guitar seriously. And before him, Ace Frehley, of course, and Dave Murray and Adrian Smith from Maiden, Glenn and KK from Judas Priest, Chris Oliva from Sabotage, I don't know, rock and roll, Fendi La Rock, many great names of that 80s era. But from this point of view, I would say that Gary Moore was the guy who influenced me the most out of all guitar players in the world. So
that's awesome.
I believe that sound he had in every band he played was unique for him. Of course, every guitarist is a story for himself, and they are all unique. But Gary had the technique and had that soul that everyone's talking about.
Sure.
And, that's what these modern shredders. I don't think they miss soul. I think they all play soulfully, but I think that the regular fan still likes to enjoy melody in something he can whistle, he can
Right.
sing,
Yeah.
and you cannot sing and whistle, you know. But and Gary was a specialist for that. He wrote so many memorable solos and so many memorable riffs, and I believe that he, along with Mark Shelton, is the musician I'll miss the most until I live.
What would you say metal has meant to you throughout your life? I mean, you know, I know it may sound corny, but I think like for a lot of us during the times when you're like the loner teenager or you're depressed or whatever, metal has that power to kind of, you know, cheer you up, energize you, make you feel like you belong. So what has it meant to you?
Well, it was somewhat different here in Serbia. We never had that division, jocks versus nerds or
Oh, really?
geeks and
Okay.
something like that. So you can say I was both things at the time, and many people were, because it's a different school system. It's different. I believe a thought system and economically it's much different system. So sadly. So we were never looked upon like outcasts or some misfits or punks. Many metalheads here were actually very good students, and they had good marks in school and dressed properly, never wearing a metal shirts so much in schools.
Sure.
But you know, when 80s were over, new generation of kids emerged, and they started to wear all this stuff like I'm wearing today.
Sure. Exactly.
And metal became much more visible. I think because of the situation we were in as a country, and so there were those bootleg CDs and cassette tapes that were available to the kids, and I believe that metal exploded and expanded here in Serbia during the 90s, and hit a top shelf, I believe, in 2003, 4,
Okay.
and then it went downstairs.
Yeah. Kind
So
of back underground
yeah,
again. Yeah.
for me personally, I had, like we all did, a few very hard moments in my life, and metal truly helped me to, I don't know, to deal with the situation I was in at the time. So it really, truly, it's not just some kind of a cliche word or expression, but it truly gave me a power to go on in my life and to accept some things I can't change. And you know, daily it fills my heart and my brain with you know, good vibrations, and I
Exactly.
can enjoy life more when I listen to metal than when I'm without music. And when I'm waiting for a bus to go to work in the morning, I usually, you know, wear my headphones and listen to some music from early on. And when someone stops by, when I'm waiting for a bus and say, "Hey, do you want a lift?" That means necessarily that I need to take off my headphones, and I don't want to do it. So I
Right.
say, "No, I'll wait for the bus. You go ahead."
I want
Even
to finish
though
this
it's
album.
need to go carpooling or something. Well, there is a scene. I cannot say that there isn't, because there are a lot of bands in Serbia, and you have the very versatile scene here in Serbia at the moment, because you have everything from the traditional metal that that is played from the bands like our band and Old Springer, or some bands like that, to thrash metal, to death metal, even some tendencies new metal.
Mhm.
So the scene is alive, but it's not doing well in terms of the media representation, because I know we are living in times of fast internet, and that no one is watching TV these days and no one is listening to radio these days. But
Sure.
we have to remember where we all derived from, because as a kid, I was glued to my TV set or radio to listen to some metal, and I believe the new generation of kids would also be happy if they had something like that going
Mhm.
on. And there are many, I don't know, very brave people and brave individuals here who truly make their own shows and fanzines and magazines and organizing festivals. But it's not enough. We need to have a media, a serious media, who will present all this to people. No, I believe that metal can be mainstream as any other genre of music, but I think it's deliberately pushed
Mhm.
aside, because most metalheads I know are people who like to think metal is a double-edged sword, because as a fan, you tend to be provoked by the music you listen to, and you tend to have some thoughts about what are you listening to. A casual pop listener or casual, I don't know, folk music listener or
Sure.
something like that, he just wants to, spread his arms up in the air and wave them and dance and whatnot. But metalheads, the type, you go to a metal show, you're not like that, but you cross your hands and look where the guitarist made a
Exactly.
mistake or drummer fell out of a tempo, and that's a curse and a blessing at the same time, because you have such devoted and passionate and smart fans, but also you cannot be something of a slacker on
Right.
stage. Give everything you've got. So
Exactly.
the important thing we miss now is the media, some serious media who will cover all this stuff. And I can, of course, between you and me, I can send you some metal bands from here. You should check out.
Sure.
Knowing your preferences, I believe you like them, because Serbia scene has a lot to offer. But somehow I've been doing these interviews with Claymorean for a few years now, and the question that all interviewers are asking is there any other band from Serbia? Because most people aren't aware that Serbia has a metal scene, and I think that it should be corrected. It's probably our fault that we are not, I don't know, grabbing the scene by the balls, if you
Yeah.
can call it like enough, like Poland does, like Greece does. So
Yeah.
all countries in Europe that are not much larger than Serbia are practically famous for their metal bands, and
Oh yeah.
I'm so grateful that these things are happening. And Sam Dunn is a guy who made all those movies about metal
Yep.
scene
Yep.
in Middle East, in
Yeah.
Far East, and something like that. And people are aware that metal is played all over this planet. So I believe these 2020s are probably the time that Serbia reveals its metal scene. There are not many traditional metal bands or even power metal bands around here, except for us, Oldbringer, and some few bands too. Uh, and the owners of the venues aren't that interested in hearing the band who has their original
Hmm.
stuff. So they rather like to hear, I don't know, Sweet Home Alabama for
Yeah.
the
Yep.
millionth.
It's
than
funny
to
to
hear.
me that that's what they want to hear over there too, because I mean that's like a staple here, of course. But
So they want to hear Smoke on the Water, they want to hear Rock You Like a Hurricane, and
yeah,
they don't want to hear Hunter of the Dam from Claymorean or something like that. But I think that if they would give us the chance, I believe that the crowd. Last night we were in our Detroit Rock City, or the city of Kragujevac, which is the city we are releasing that live album from.
okay,
We called it Live in Vultureburg because Kragujevac means the city of vultures.
okay,
And we went there with our producer who had a master class in sound mixing, and he mixed one of our songs from our latest album, and the crowd was like, hey, this is a good song. So we made some friendships with their local scene, and possibly we'll have some gigs there. That's an exclusive information for
yeah,
you
that's
right
awesome.
now. But other than that, it's pretty grim. You have to pull people by their sleeves, and you have
Right,
to kiss someone's asses to let you play on some festival or organize you some gig. And we don't want to do that because that, that isn't the way it should be
hmm,
anywhere, not here, anywhere in the world.
sure,
We want to play our music. We want to present our music to the world. That's the goal of any art. You want your music to be heard by a lot of people. And what can you do when no one is giving you a chance to present it?
yep,
So these
yeah,
things, like these interviews, these internet representations, are sadly and thankfully the only thing we can do right now.
sure,
During the COVID time, uh, we had already prepared the entire album, but we had to wait until 2021 to release it because I got sick, not from COVID. I had
hmm,
much severe type of illness, and I was in hospital for more than 2 weeks, and
oh wow,
the whole the time I need to practically start living again like I did before. It took several months, and then we started recording again, and we had to record everything in our home because the studio was closed because of
yeah,
COVID. A lot of bad stuff. I think it's maybe over, but who knows? Who knows?
yeah, yeah. It's been up and down
We must be
here,
vigilant at all time.
yeah. Well, I got to give you, kudos for your album because the new one sounds great. And considering, like you said, you guys did that at home, did it yourself, it sounds phenomenal. Production wise, guitar solo wise, vocal wise, it's punchy, it's catchy, it's very well done. I was just kind of researching last night for this interview, so I listened to like all three of your albums last night. So very good stuff.
Thank you, thank you. It means a lot, and I'm honored you liked it. I just have to say that it was professionally mixed and mastered by our longtime producer Boris, but this is the only album that's ever been recorded inside of our home.
Yeah,
We never stepped into the studio while recording it, but Boris made sure that we recorded specifically as he intended to. He
sure.
said, use these microphones, use these preamps, use these, cables even. And he did record the drums at our drummer's house.
Okay.
So he set up the entire drum set in his house, and microphones and everything. And the drums were recorded in drummer's house. The guitars and vocals were recorded at my house. Second guitars are recorded in the other guitarist's house. And I believe that we managed to prove that it's possible. It's possible to record everything
Sure.
at your home and mix it professionally, and you have a good product. But it's nothing it's nothing inorganic there. We use real amps, we use real drums, we use the real guitars, we use the real vocals. No studio trickery or anything. So what you hear, it's all us.
Yeah, that's
The
awesome.
drums aren't even sampled. You know, these days you have a sample, obligatory sample on kick drum or on snare drum,
Right,
but
right.
everything is without 0% of samples. You know, there are. I adore the synth pop scene from the 80s. I adore bands like Duran Duran, Kaja Gugu, Spandau Ballet. You know, I simply love that era of the bands. But nowadays, I believe when I say a name Ghost, most people were like, you know, they feel a crawl on their skin. But I don't know. I really like Ghost, but not from their early beginnings. I tend to like them from their Meliora album and onwards. I believe I fell in love with them in 2018 when I heard Prequel album, and I said, "Wow, there's some great songwriting. This dude is know what he's doing, and the arrangements are so rich, and the production is top notch. And this new Impera album has blew me off. So that's my. I don't know if you can call it a guilty pleasure, but
Sure.
I love Ghost. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't know how to say this, but in top 5 bands of all time, there's only one metal band for me, and that's Manila Road. The other bands are Rush, the Beatles, Kansas, and Jethro Tull, and Kiss. You know, so I even though I love metal the most, my favorite bands aren't necessarily metal bands. So Manila Road is the exception. They're the best band of all time for me, and I think that will stay as long as I live. Here in Serbia, we have a brand of music called Turbo Folk, and it's an atrocious type of music. It's mixed with something I don't know what it's called. It's like this ethnic Iranian or Afghanistan or Turkey type of music mixed with pop, mixed with techno, and mixed with I don't know, folk, Serbian folk. I don't, and atrocious. And it, I don't know. I don't have anything against ethnic music of any country in the world, but mixed like that, it's simply and mostly stolen from other musicians, translated in Serbian. You know, we had this Serbian singer, and she had a song. When the solo guitar started, it was Rising Force from Yngwie Malmsteen, and I was like, "Oh man, what just happened?"
Exactly.
The song is horrific, but that solo part is Rising Force, and I'm like, well, what can you say? Many people ask us here, why are we singing in English? It's not our primary language or anything, but I say it's the language of rock and roll music, and I can only imagine if someone would sing turbo folk, like I mentioned, in English or in German. It would be hilarious, atrocious and hilarious. So I have nothing against bands that are singing in their own language when it comes to metal and rock music in general, but it sounds so much better in English. I don't know. It's simply because it originated from Great Britain and United States. So I cannot imagine that Scorpions would be a popular band if they have been singing in German. I love Moon Sorrow. It's one of my favorite bands, and they sing in Finnish, but they usually growl. So I can understand the word they're singing anyway. So
Right.
I believe in when it comes to extreme metal bands, the language is not that much important. But when it comes to clean singing, the traditional
Yeah.
singing, I believe metal sounds best in English. I don't want to annoy anyone or be disrespectful to any other language, because I believe all languages are beautiful and great on their own. When it comes to music, that's just my preference.
Yeah.
Only one song that has a part of Serbian language in it, and that's a cool thing, like Rhapsody does with Italian in some parts,
Sure.
but primarily English. So people from all around the world can understand what we're singing about without using Google Translate or
Right.
something.
Well, I want to give you a chance to promote your band real quick and just tell us, like, if there's the best places to connect with you or some websites to go to.
Well, as you may have already heard, I'm the guitarist of the band Claymorean. We are a heavy metal, power metal band from Serbia. We have epic influences in our music. We even have some doom influences in our music. I believe it's safe to say that we love doing music without any limitations or any strict subgenre divisions. So we have our latest album on CD for Storm Spell Records. It's
Yep.
called Eulogy for the Gods. This album was out on September 15th. I believe it's all. So we may have to do reprint of this album, but who knows? Maybe in some future time. And there's also a cassette version. We are expecting a vinyl version
Cool.
for this album on August 12th this year for ZYX, a German label, which is famous for Noidi from Manila Road, ex-drummer from Manila Road, being their representative and PR. And we're also planning a live album which will be a present to all our fans, because it's going to be absolutely free on our Bandcamp page. Sadly, it's not going to be released as a physical release, so no CD or vinyl or even cassette tape. It's going to be fully digital, but you can choose to download it as an MP3 or WAV file. And the entire album is from our show last year with the band Old Bringer at the city of Kragujevac, and it has 13 songs, 2 covers, one of Manowar and one of Manila Road. Those 2 are at the very end of our show. So that's what's also I want to mention that we are also on this compilation that just emerged, and it's a tribute to Bill Samis from Warlord,
Yep.
Lord of God, and the Cyprus label Pitch Black Records just released it. 16 bands, lots of US bands. We're the only band from Serbia on compilation, and lots of Greek and bands from Cyprus. They even bands from Germany, Netherlands. I believe I'm not quite sure what bands. We haven't still got the CD, so I didn't hear it. And pretty busy year, even though we
awesome.
do not plan to have an album this year, but we have a live album. We're waiting vinyl releases. Also, our first 2 albums, Unbroken and Sounds from Die World, are also be released on vinyl for Metal Warrior Records. Maybe a couple of videos, and that's
awesome.
it.
All right, well, that's awesome. Well, I encourage those of you that are listening to this or watching, please check out Vlad's band Claymorean. It's great stuff if you just love, like he said, classic, doom, whatever, all those influences, just good heavy metal, you know?
Yes.
And so just check it out,
And like it was done back in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that you guys even like the album cover is awesome. The artwork, I mean, you know, the whole package, you know? It's just very well done. So I encourage you guys, yes, definitely check their band out, give them a listen, go talk to them on Facebook. They're very responsive. And Vlad was great when I got hold of him and said I want to do this. He volunteered right away. And so, yeah, we've been working, trying to get this going for a few months, but we finally made it.
I truly enjoyed this conversation with you, and I feel so honored and thankful for even inviting me to do that. Yes, we had some preparations before we did this, but I'm glad we did this anyway, and I hope we'll get some more conversations whenever the right topic emerges from our ranks.
Thank you for watching, everybody. This has been Metal Roots with Wade and Vlad from Claymorean, and we'll see you next time. Take care.